just because the way he plays is very fun, very exciting, very skillful, and I think it's just a lot of fun to watch him play basketball. And I don't know, he just plays the game like very flashy, but still very effective. I feel like, obviously, with time in the NBA, you will be able to sort of form his sort of what do I want to call it, sort of basketball IQ, with being more of a floor general, getting more of his teammates involved. It comes with age in the NBA, learning the game, learning how to slow the game down, which I feel like he really did very well from his rookie season. At this season, I feel like you could definitely see a difference because when he first got drafted, he kind of had a rough start coming into the NBA. Then came to find himself later on that season, and now almost a 30-point per game scorer. I feel like he'll probably do the same sort of style this upcoming season next year. So I'm very excited to see what happens with him. Plus, he's just a very likable guy, very relatable guy. We get that dude who's barely 20 years old, already the star of a team, very relatable, and I think it's kind of cool to see how he matures and grows into, hopefully more of a team leader. We'll see how his defense comes along, but I feel like he's just a really nice guy, and obviously a really great player, so I probably will say Trae Young for the Atlanta Hawks. Next up is the Boston Celtics, who are in the conference finals against the Miami Heat. Boston might be my favorite Eastern Conference team. It's either them or Miami. Honestly, I've been a fan of Miami for a couple years, since obviously LeBron being there, they being on TV all the time. I used to kind of fall in love with like their jerseys and like how their crowd used to be totally crazy crowd over there in Miami. So sucks we're not gonna be able to see that for now because of the whole situation that's going on. So but yeah, Boston is a great team. They have a lot of really great players on their team, just like Atlanta Hawks having a lot of young talent with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker. But in my opinion, my favorite player on that team, looking at the roster right now, I think it might have to be Jaylen Brown. I feel like Jaylen Brown right now is probably my most ideal shooting guard that I would want on my team. Like if I was starting a team and I wanted to rebuild and I had to draft a shooting guard, I think I'm picking Jaylen Brown. He's a 6'6", 6'7", player who can guard 1 through 5. I mean 1 through 3 very effectively. Really great perimeter defense, which is only going to get better, like I said, with Trae Young, as he slows the game down, learns the game a little bit better and smoother, and his offensive game has been taking off tremendously, with the three-point shot coming in. Still a great finisher around the rim, instead of a slasher type of player. And I feel like he's not afraid of, taking the shots in late game situations, so I feel like he's sort of, bred to be a very, very, very great player in the NBA. And then also, on the other hand, he seems like, again, a very nice person. I've seen interviews with, like, the Boston Celtics with him and how he interacts with his teammates and Jaylen Brown. I see him being more of, like, the voice of a team than, like, Jason Tatum. Maybe Jason Tatum will be, the most talented player on that Boston Celtics roster in years to come, but I feel like Jaylen Brown would probably be more of, like, the voice of the locker room, if that makes any sense. It would be more of, like, the team leader than Jason Tatum will be, but obviously Jason Tatum will probably be the more, talented player. But yeah, I feel like I really like how he is as a person, as a player, and just, again, as an NBA basketball player, the dude is only going to get better. Obviously, with Gordon Hayward being on the team as well, he's another really, kind of favorite of mine, but I just really like how Jaylen Brown is starting to come into his own in these sort of short couple years, and then I'm very just excited to see, where he goes next. Do I feel like he'll stay with Boston? I don't know. I don't know how much of an ego he has with Jason Tatum being there, and then they also have Kemba. They're going to have a lot of talent on that team, all sort of sprouting at the same part in time. I wonder if they will, end up trading him or something like that. That'd be kind of interesting to see. Next up we have the Brooklyn Nets, and with Brooklyn we have here, man, yeah, they do have a very, very, very different team than what they had in the past couple years. Obviously with adding, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on that team. It's very interesting. If this was last year, I definitely would have said D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell's, one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA. I feel like he's very underrated. But since trading him for Kevin Durant, I think I'm gonna have to go with Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie's game, in my opinion, I feel like the NBA should start, forming more of the taller guard sort of situation that's going on in the league. There's a lot of bigger guards out there, and Spencer Dinwiddie being about a 6'5" point guard who can handle the ball very well. I know he was in, I think, the finals, or he won the NBA Skills Challenge one year for the All-Star Games, and that was really cool to see, and I feel like he's a very capable finisher at the rim. I feel like he can still develop a very good and reliable jump shot, and I feel like he could definitely be a starter in a lot of teams in the NBA. Obviously, he's probably going to be coming off the bench this next season with, obviously, Kyrie being there. But, again, I feel like just his talent is very, very, very unused over there in Brooklyn. We saw how good he could be with him and D'Angelo sort of flip-flopping that sort of point guard, shooting guard situation. And I feel like he's just, again, a very nice person. I know all NBA players are very nice people, at least the vast majority of them are, so I really like his personality. He's very, I see him being very relatable, and he seems like a very introverted person. He doesn't really seem very flashy. He just seems, goes out there, does his job. He's very, team-oriented, orientated. I think that's a word, right? And I don't know, I really like his game. It's very smooth, very sort of like, almost like a 70s vibe. Like, it's very smooth, very flowy, and I really, really, really like that. So, it's either him or, obviously Kyrie Irving is another very, very, very popular player. Jared Allen as well. I feel like he's definitely underrated too. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Spencer Dinwiddie. Now we have the Charlotte Hornets up next. Charlotte is tough for me because I really don't have a very strong connection with any players because I don't really watch a lot of Charlotte Hornet games, but probably just gonna go with, actually, I would say Nicholas Batum, but that's just sort of being like a, the hometown favorite. Nick Batum used to play for the Portland Trailblazers for a lot of years. Obviously, I would pick him, but maybe just shying away from that, going the more traditional route, I'll just say Devontae Graham. Now, in my opinion, Devontae Graham definitely should have gotten a little bit more respect on his name when coming to the Most Improved Player Award. Obviously, Brandon Ingram won it. Bam Adebayo probably should have won it, but I feel like Devontae Graham should have been a little bit more up there in votes and things like that, a little bit more talked about. He was, honestly, I think he was like a 5-point per game scorer the season before, and now this season he's, a 15, 20-point per game scorer on a team that's not doing so hot, and still competing with a starting role spot with Terry Rozier. I think maybe at one point they were starting at both of them, but I feel like he's now sort of designated as that starting point guard role, and being a shorter guard, it's kind of fun to watch him sort of be crafty with how he gets, scoring. It reminds me of like imagine like a Chris Paul player, but without any of like the defense. You know what I mean? He's very offensive orientated, which is great. I feel like any team that maybe picks him up if he doesn't sign back with Charlotte, or Charlotte goes with the LaMelo Ball route in the NBA draft. If they draft LaMelo, he can go to like a different team like the Lakers or some other team that really needs a point guard. And I feel like that's kind of interesting to see like how and where his career will go after this sort of coming onto the spotlight of being, oh wow, this kid can actually play basketball pretty well. And I really like that underdog sort of story of being like an undersized point guard and, being a 5-point per game scorer to almost 20 point per game scorer is kind of interesting. Next we have here the Chicago Bulls. And for the Bulls, I gotta go with the actual dunking legend, Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is like, I know I talk about all these players being like, oh, they're very nice and humble. I feel like Zach LaVine is just a player that he needs to get out there, man. Like, he just needs to get on a team where he could win and, like, grow his name and, like, be more respected as an NBA basketball player. It's crazy to think how long this dude's been in the league, but still, I don't think he's even made an all-star team, which is crazy. He's an offensive-minded freak of nature. Like, he's so gifted. His dribbling, his three-point shooting, his obviously dunking ability. Obviously, he had some injuries, but still a very good slashing player. Still needs to develop a little bit more of a passing game and a defensive game, but I still feel like that's way more attention that he should be given. And plus his contract is like a steal. It's like he's getting paid like maybe not even $20 million, where you have some players making $40 million at the sort of level he's playing at. So I've seen him play on Twitch a lot, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I feel like he's just like a really cool laid-back guy who just, I want him to win. Like, I think he deserves to win and, get to the playoffs and really make it like a bigger name for himself. That's one of the reasons why. Actually, maybe even Lauri Markkanen, being an Arizona kid, but I'm gonna have to go with Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine's just a really cool, he's just a cool guy, I would love to be friends with him. Now we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, and with the Cleveland Cavaliers, again, another team I'm not very connected with really at all. Actually, that's false. Kevin Love. Obviously, Kevin Love being a beast in Minnesota, his sort of story of being, the big star in Minnesota to going to Cleveland and sort of being that role player to the amazing success they had coming back from 3-1. I think he was a very important part of that whole team, that whole process. I'm sure he doesn't regret that at all. I know he had some ups and downs with that team, but I feel like obviously coming out with that crazy championship means the world to him. But I really, really, really love Kevin Love more as a person than as a basketball player. I feel like he's a very team-oriented player. He's also come out multiple times of talking about mental health in the NBA, which again, obviously me being an ASMR channel, me sort of also just trying to help people out with different things, just trying to relax people, help people with anything that they're going through. I very take that to heart, and I feel like he's a very kind person. And I feel like he obviously deserves a lot more sort of praise for what he's done in the NBA as a player and as just sort of a person. So, I don't know. I feel like when people talk about that Cleveland team and they say, how bad Kevin Love was and things like that, I think that's totally disrespectful. And I think he was a really great piece for them. Obviously being, definitely the best power forward in the league for a couple years in Minnesota. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of weird how people talk about him nowadays. Now, obviously his contract is trash. He's getting paid a lot of money, which is great, but now for basketball sort of minded reasons, it's not that great. But I love Kevin Love as a person. I really love what he stands for and things like that, so I think that's really cool. Any other player? Not really that I can think of on that team, but definitely Kevin Love, favorite player. Now we're on the Detroit Pistons, and for Detroit, I think everyone would probably say Derrick Rose. I really do like Blake Griffin as a person, not much the basketball player. I feel like the basketball player, he plays sort of like, I don't know, like a wimp. I don't want to say like a baby or things like that, but he doesn't really play to where he used to be back in the Clippers days. Now he's more of like a crafty player. But obviously Derrick Rose being on the Pistons, man, it's gotta be Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is, a lot of people's favorite player of all time, definitely in this generation of, younger basketball players. Derrick Rose is an icon, being such a young player and being so explosive like that. I mean, should he have won that MVP over LeBron? In my basketball opinion, no, but in my, in my heart, yes, because it was sort of a breakout season. That Bulls team was amazing with Joakim Noah and Luol Deng and that whole squad they had over there in Chicago. But I still obviously have great respect for Derrick Rose and what he's done in the league. The way he's come back has been truly inspirational for probably a lot of players who have had major injuries. To come back from that is awesome. Obviously, all I want to see is Derrick Rose is happiness, and if he's having happiness in Detroit and just having the ball in his hand all the time and scoring in bunches, that's awesome. But I would love to see Derrick Rose obviously win a championship before his time is up, sort of cementing him as, a true, really, really, really good basketball player. Like, I don't feel like Derrick Rose is probably a Hall of Famer in my opinion. He's a great player, he's an MVP, that's awesome, but I feel like he just needs he needs one more boost of great basketball, and I don't think he's going to get that in Detroit. So maybe he goes and gets a buyout, goes plays for, the Lakers or the Bucks or some other team that really needs help, and I think that'd be really cool to see. And again, being sort of like more of an introverted person, I really sort of like relate to those people a lot more than sort of those cockier type of players like Blake Griffin. Now we're on to the Indiana Pacers. his defense is actually pretty good for where it is right now. I'm hoping that team maybe sort of fits around playing around Sabonis a lot more, getting more shooters around him, getting more defensive-minded center that can help him out a lot more on the defensive end. I feel like that'd be really great. And again, I feel like he's just a really nice guy, really nice kid, and I don't know. I feel like I really want to see that team have success because of that. It'd be great to see, if they can trade, Victor Oladipo or Miles Turner. I see him a lot in trade rumors, and maybe they do, and maybe they get some help for him. I think it'd be pretty cool, but not a lot of sort of attachment. Now we're on to the Miami Heat, and for Miami, again, one of my favorite teams of all time. I love their jerseys. The jerseys are the best in the NBA. That's probably the most reason why I like them so much. The Miami Vice series, and then they had the all-black jerseys, and they had the white-out jerseys, that were super sick. And then D-Wade being one of my favorite players of all time as well. My favorite player on that team, I think, I love Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is so underrated. Jimmy Butler was so outcasted at the beginning of this year for what he was rumored to be as a player and as a person, which was totally dog duty, which was just trash. I hate how that happens to a lot of players. In all sports, that happens to all the players. You're too competitive, and then you become toxic, and it's just dumb. But I'm gonna have to jump on the bandwagon here and say Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero's probably now one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA. I feel like, in my opinion, he can be, the next Manu Ginobili if he stays with the Miami Heat squad. I feel like that's his perfect role, being the spark off the bench. I feel like I said, he could probably be arguably the next Manu Ginobili. Manu not being known for his defense, but being a very crafty player, can get to, a lot of spots. Very good on the offensive end for shooting, but I would love to see Tyler Hero develop more of a playmaking sort of role. He's probably arguably better on defense than Manu was in his career already, so I think he already has him beat there, so I feel like it'd be really cool to see where he goes in his career, being sort of a young kid who's sort of, I don't want to say underlooked, but definitely not to the hype as where he is now. Hopefully that doesn't get to his head. I feel like being on the team with Jimmy Butler and that Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley sort of staff will hopefully keep him level-headed and continue to work hard. And also, again, I just like how he is as a person. He's very expressive and pretty cool. So I feel like he's probably my favorite player. Him, Jimmy, Bam. I love all three of those players. Those guys together hopefully stick around for a while. That'd be really cool. Next we have the Milwaukee Bucks, and for them, obviously Giannis is their best player, but Giannis is great. I feel like he's probably everyone's favorite, but going off on a tangent, I'm gonna say Dante DiVincenzo. I really like the play style of Dante DiVincenzo, kind of like the off-brand version of Tyler Hero. No offense to anything like that, but a great young player who can play, the 3-and-D role very well. Again, a player I wish who would develop a little bit more of a dribble game, be able to play make a little bit better. I feel like he could become a great six-man, or even a starting caliber player. Yeah, I feel like he can just develop into a really good player. Again, I really like, the person he is. He's very, very, very cool. Very nice guy, and yeah, I feel like that'd be really cool. I just like, the way he plays very hard for, already being sort of a younger guy. You're seeing a lot of hustle out of him. It's very inspiring to see, what else he can do later on in his career. Other than him, Pat Connaughton, Wesley Matthews, again, being Portland Trailblazers. Back in the day, I love Planet Pat. He's super dope, but I'll say Dante DiVincenzo just to, again, be sort of a different. Now we're on to the New York Knicks. And with the Knicks, wow, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think a little bit on this one. Man, they have Mo Harkless, again, former Blazer. Big fan of him. Big fan. I'm going to just have to say, I'm going to say Kevin Knox. I feel like they've already given up on Kevin Knox as a player. He obviously didn't have the sort of second season he probably envisioned on having, and I also didn't envision on having. I sort of saw them going on to more of like let's just play basketball. Let's try to develop a new team, any players. Let's just play basketball, see what happens. Let's lose games and obviously get a good draft pick. But that obviously didn't turn out so well for which isn't bad, but they're probably open for top 3. But I really like Kevin Knox's game. I feel like he's now sort of getting like a chip on his shoulder, being sort of a forgotten good player in the NBA, and I really hope he sort of has another really good comeback season this year. New York is sort of a team that's looking for, a savior with anyone they can get, and I've seen a lot of trade options with, Chris Paul or even Giannis somehow getting his way in there, but I really like the idea of Kevin Knox still developing into a really, really good player. Maybe he gets a better opportunity somewhere else on a team. I think maybe not this season, but the next season he has. He's going to be a free agent, so maybe he goes somewhere else and sort of has a bigger opportunity, but hopefully his time in New York doesn't become stagnant on his process on development. So, yeah, I feel like he's probably my favorite player on that team. RJ's probably everyone's favorites. I know a lot of people hate on Julius Randle, but I'm going to say Kevin Knox. Now we're on to the Orlando Magic, which is another team in the East I love because they are sponsored by Disney, and I love Disney. My favorite player to watch on that team is probably, I'm going to go with Markelle Fultz, and again, kind of like Kevin Knox, sort of being a more forgotten player, young player. Again, another player who has a chip on his shoulder, sort of becoming, hey, I can still play in the NBA, no, I'm not forgotten about, look at me, I can still, be a good player. And obviously being, exiled from Philadelphia after not being able to shoot a 3, even though Philly's arguably best player, Ben Simmons, doesn't shoot 3s, but is still very capable. It's sort of funny how that sort of situation turned out to be, but yeah, I think he's going to be playing there for a long time. I really hope they stick around with Markelle, having Markelle being their cornerstone point guard for, years to come. I feel like that'd be awesome. Having him and Mo Bamba and Jonathan Isaac, I feel like that's a really good core to keep around. I wish, as a basketball NBA fan, they trade Vucevic for maybe a starting shooting guard or something else. They need more of a better team, so maybe they trade him for like a draft pick or something like that. I would love to see that, but I think they're sort of content with Vucevic being like their sort of franchise player, even though they need to start tanking. Like that team is too good to tank, but they're not bad enough to where they're making the playoffs and being crazy good. So they're in like a weird sort of limbo right now, and I really wish they would just either trade pieces to get better or trade Vucevic to get better draft picks. So I don't think they're gonna do that, but I wish that would happen. But I really like Markelle. I like his sort of chip on the shoulder type story, and I feel like he will make a very big comeback in the next couple years to come as he develops, because he was born in '98, so he's like 23 maybe, so he's still a very young player. Actually, he's 21. That's right. Next we're at Philadelphia, and for me, my favorite player on Philly would have to be, honestly, probably no one, but since the bubble started, I really, really, really like Matisse Thybulle because of his YouTube series that he came out with during the bubble, and I really like his sort of vibe he gives off. Him, and also, this might be a two-way award, if you want to call this award, but Tobias Harris has also been featured a lot on his channel, and I love how Tobias Harris carries himself as sort of like the locker room guy, sort of the glue guy on that team. Obviously, Al Horford being on that team is a very big voice in that locker room as well, but dude, watching the Matisse Thybulle vlogs, it almost seemed like Tobias Harris sort of is like more of a voice on that team than like Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons are. And throughout those vlogs, I never even saw Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons really, hang out with the guys and everything like that, but I really saw Tobias Harris being more of the voice, and them talking about BLM a lot, and teaching younger guys about the NBA and lifestyles and things like that. I really like how Tobias Harris carries himself as a player, as a person actually. As a player, he's obviously a very good player, definitely overpaid, but still a very good player. And Matisse Thybulle is sort of like, I can see him again being like a Jaylen Brown, Donte DiVincenzo player, where I really hope to see them develop a little bit more, and we'll see where it goes from there. But in his vlogs, he seems like a very cool guy I'd love to be friends with. And yeah, obviously everyone loves Joel Embiid being the big funny guy he is, and Ben Simmons being the talent, but I feel like those guys are really cool. Wait, where are we at now? The Raptors, Toronto Raptors. I'm trying to think. might just have to go with maybe. I do like Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet is definitely a player I really like. Not the star, but can be, the player that takes the last shot in the game. I really like the way he plays. Very smart. He definitely has great basketball IQ. I can see him being like a coach or something like that one day, being like one of those good role players who turns out to be an amazing coach one day. He plays very scrappy, very hard defense. Can be a starter for next season for a lot of different teams. Like again, like the Lakers, Milwaukee, a team that could really need a point guard. I feel like it'd be really interesting to see where he goes. I don't think he's gonna stay in Toronto because I don't really like their sort of small ball lineup where they have Kyle Lowry and VanVleet on the floor at the same time. Them being, both barely 6 foot. I just think that's very winning basketball sort of meta right now. So let's see him go to a different team and maybe even shine even brighter than what he did over in Toronto. I think it'd be really cool. I've never really seen any interviews of him or things like that, but I like how he really plays on the court. It seems like a very hard-headed sort of team player, and I really like that. Obviously, Pascal Siakam, another really great player. Marc Gasol is on that team as well. Marc Gasol is an absolute legend in the NBA. One of the best centers we've had in the past couple years, in the past like decade or so. Marc Gasol's been one of the best centers. So, lastly, we have here in the Eastern Conference, we have here the Washington Wizards, and this is tough. This is actually very, very tough. I do not know, actually. Obviously, Bradley Beal being their, best player since John Wall has been injured. But I'm gonna go with. Rui Hachimura. I've seen interviews of him during his draft, like sort of interviews, and again, he just seems like a very nice, personal guy, and the way he plays is very, very like sort of next generation type of NBA player, where you can see him being even like a small forward at some points in time, but you can see him maybe even playing center sometimes. He's 6'8", 6'9". He's a big player who can, again, you could see him even develop into a small forward or even a power forward or even a center